Welcome to the Brooklyn Park City Council Mayoral Forum. My name is Joe Burkett. I'm representing the North Hennepin Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to thank you all for attending this evening. The North Hennepin Area Chamber and the League of Women Voters for Brooklyn Park, Osseo, and Maple Grove are co-sponsoring this candidate forum to encourage voter interest in the upcoming election on November 6th. Neither organization endorses any of the candidates for office. We would like to thank the City of Brooklyn Park for hosting the forum and for the use of their facility, and then CCX Media for their support in televising the event and for their scheduling of the cable class replays. It is now my pleasure to introduce Linda Freeman, who will be your moderator tonight from the League of Women Voters.
There we go. Hi, good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, I would like to welcome you to the Candidates Forum this evening. The League of Women Voters is an organization that is nonpartisan and volunteer-based. It is organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While the League members do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse or support political parties or candidates. The League does encourage its members as individuals, as we encourage each of you to get involved in your community and the political party of your choice. However, the views expressed in this forum are those of the individual candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters. By sponsoring this forum this evening, the League provides an opportunity for citizen participation and exposure to candidates, but does not provide an endorsement of any candidate or candidates. All viable candidates have been invited to participate this evening. Tonight's debate, or forum I should say, is between our mayor and mayoral candidate and also our city council candidates. So not necessarily in the order that they're sitting. We have Terry Parks for the East District, Christian Eriksen for the Central District, Hollis Winston, who is a mayoral candidate, Jeffrey Lundy, our mayor, Tonya West Hafner, who's in the Central, Winfred Russell, who is in the West, Bob Mina, who's in the West, and we also have Marta Yakovleva, who is, I believe, running in the East District, but she will not be able to make it tonight. We were expecting Winfred Russell, but I don't see him yet, so we will get started, and he'll be seated if he does end up arriving. So, in tonight's forum, the candidates will start with 5 of the 6 questions they received in advance, and they have 1 minute to respond. Then the candidates will have up to 30 seconds to respond to each of the questions that are coming from the audience. Finally, they will be given 1 minute for the final question that is their final statements. Candidates, the League would like to request that you refrain from making personal attacks on your fellow candidates. I'd like to take this moment to point out our timekeepers up front here, and they will show you when you have 15 seconds to finish your statements, then show you that your time is expired. Please finish your sentence at that time, and I will be directing the next speaker's turn. The order has been randomly selected. For the audience, please remember to turn off all communication devices at this time. There will be no photography for the duration of the forum. Are we ready? We will start with the first question, and the first person we will go to is Terry Parks. Please tell us about your background and previous city involvement that support your candidacy for this position.
My wife and I moved to Brooklyn Park 37 years ago and raised 2 wonderful sons here. I served in the Brooklyn Park Fire Department and retired as a district chief. I also retired from Minneapolis Fire as a captain. I served my country during the Vietnam conflict, and here in Brooklyn Park I served as the chairperson of the Human Rights Commission. I served on the Park and Rec Commission and the Charter Commission. I served on Taylor Day's committee for 25 years. I coached Little League Baseball from T-ball to Babe Ruth. I was a scoutmaster and a den leader. I've been an election judge for 17 years and volunteered throughout District 11 schools since 1990. I've been an active member of the Lions and the Elks, and I've had the honor to serve on the City Council for the last 4 years, and I hope to get to serve another.
Thank you. Next, Christian Eriksen.
I was born and raised in Brooklyn Park, in the home where my parents still live. I'm raising my own family here, including 3 children who attend Brooklyn Middle and Birch Grove Elementary. I am definitely here for the long haul. When I moved back with my family in 2013, I spent some time watching Getting Reacquainted with the City and knew I needed to get involved. For me, that was through the Human Rights Commission. Cross-cultural relationships and protecting human dignity have always been very important to me. My graduate school program in family therapy was, in a very basic sense, a 4-year training program in listening well, asking good questions, and helping others build better relationships. I feel like this process prepared me well for the networking and relationship building that is needed to be an effective council member. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next will be Hollis Winston.
Okay. So, well, thanks, North Hennepin Chamber and League of Women Voters for putting this event together. I've lived in Brooklyn Park a total of 8 years. Prior to that, received my degree from Northwestern University. I actually grew up in the Northwest Suburbs in Plymouth, Minnesota. Received my MBA from Carlson, where I was class president. After that, went and worked for a pharmaceutical benefits company as an implementation manager. But along the way, got involved with the Democratic Party and started a youth mentor program where we introduced a number of youth to civics. Also joined and became a member of the Brooklyn Park Budget Advisory Commission, where I actually served 3 years and just being reappointed. So really just been involved for a long time in a number of volunteer efforts. And so I bring that business experience, but also that understanding of how to work with the community and get people involved.
Thank you. Next, Geoff Lundy.
Thank you. Geoff Lundy, candidate for mayor, currently serving my second term as mayor. 21 years ago, I married up by meeting my wife and convincing her to take a plunge with me. I am a proud father of 2 sons, one who attends Champlain Park High School, the other one Jackson Middle School. I currently serve my second term. Prior to mayor, I served 1 term as city council. I served on the planning commission prior to that. I was also board member of the Hennepin County Library Board. I've been a member of the Champlain Park Youth Lacrosse Association, helping to serve youth in our community as well. I'm a founding mayor of a couple organizations, one national, Cities United, which is an effort to help tackle the challenges that are affecting young males of color in our communities. Also founding member, actually the founding mayor of the Blue Line Connect Now Coalition, which is a collection of cities supporting the Blue Line.
Thanks. And next, Tonya West, Hafner.
Hi, I'm Tonya West, Hafner, and thank you for hosting this. I haven't run for office before, but I'm a 20-year resident of Brooklyn Park. We've raised my husband and I have raised our 2 children here. They both graduated from Park Center High School. I've worked for Hennepin County in the Community Development Department for the last 18 years. I began volunteering in 2006 on the Stable Neighborhoods Task Force, and then the Multifamily Housing Study Group, and then I was appointed to the Citizen Long Range Improvement Committee, where I served as chair for the 3 years I was on there. During my time at CLIC, I spent a lot of time in working on the Brooklyn Park Youth Opportunities Coalition, which is the foundation for the youth programs that are now permanent under Brooklyn Bridge Alliance and now Brooklink. In 2011, I was appointed to the Planning Commission and served as the vice chair there, and I've served on multiple other task forces during that time when I served as chair as Planning Commission.
Thank you. And Bob Maida.
Thank you. I would like to first thank the North Hennepin Chamber and the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. I've been a resident of Brooklyn Park for over 34 years. I own my own business here in Brooklyn Park. I've been a council member for the last 6 years. And I've served on the Audit Committee, the Budget Advisory Commission, the Charter Commission, the Human Rights Commission for 2 terms, the Rec and Park Committee. I'm a board member of the Brooklyn Park Development Corp Committee and a board member of the Northwest Area Tourism Committee. Member of the core planning team and active in the Community Engagement Assembly and Think Again Brooklands, and a member of the Botno Corridor Steering Committee. I've been the last 6 years on the city council, and I appreciate being on there again. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question, what are the most critical issues facing the city of Brooklyn Park over the next several years, and what policies will you support or initiate if elected to address these challenges? This time we'll start with Christian Eriksen.
I came up with more than 1 minute worth of issues, but I will share a few. We need to clarify plans for what happens development-wise once our large tracts of land are gone. And related to that, I think it's important to spend as much energy on redeveloping the south half of the city as we've spent on developing the north. Our police department and our African American and African immigrant neighbors need our full support and encouragement as they work to bridge the breach of trust that exists. Our fire department needs help. Each Brooklyn Park firefighter is quite literally doing the work of 3 firefighters according to national standards. For their safety and for ours, they need help. We continue to work on recruiting a police department and city staff that looks more like the rest of the city. That has proved to be very hard work, but I think it's important work. And we need to support our Recreation and Parks Department as they work to implement their strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Geoff Lundy.
Thank you. I think there's obviously a lot of issues that are before this city, and first and foremost is concentrating on what the city can affect. How we tackle development, making sure that we want to put butts in chairs, which means we want workers. We want to have high value, as our city grows out, we want to continue to increase the high value development that can occur and not settle for less. We also need to, as we're talking about development, talk about human development, which is to start to take a look at how we help people gain the skills that they don't have, and how we help young people who may not have mentors in their life, help them see a future that includes them succeeding. I do think that one of the most key points that this council will tackle the next 4 years is make sure that the park bond, which is up for a vote by every voter who has a chance to have a vote in this, to make sure that we have a chance to tackle that, make sure that the money that is, if it is allocated, is spent wisely. And that's what I'm going to concentrate my efforts on.
Thank you. Next, Terry Parks.
I sat here 4 years ago and told you that public safety is #1 in my book. With the investments into our youth and our police department, our crime is at a 32-year low. We need to continue to give our youth a voice and invest in our future, creating safe neighborhoods. Our fire department is understaffed. We need to get them up to where they should be. Staffing levels right now are not safe for our residents or our firefighters. Coming before the voters in November is a park referendum. Parks are one of our biggest assets in Brooklyn Park. We have a park within walking distance from every residence. We need to refurbish and repurpose some of our parks to reflect the diversity that we have here. Affordable housing has been talked about a lot, but we need to start putting our talk into action. We need to meet the needs of all residents and future residents of Brooklyn Park. We have to make sure that our seniors are taken care of, not only with housing, but with social services. We need to continue to build our tax base as well.
Thank you. And next is Bob Maida.
Thank you. I have to agree with Mr. Parks on a lot of these issues that our fire department is grossly understaffed, and we need more part-time firefighters that are local. We need to get that handled. Our seniors is the largest growing part of our population right now, and we need to see what we need to do to take care of them. They have some serious issues and places they need to have activities and things, and they just kind of get pushed around. So we need to see about working on a senior center. And I would support all of these things, and I would support any more improvement with the police department. They've done an excellent job in reducing crime, and it's a good start, but we're not done with that yet, so thank you.
Thank you. And next, Tonya West, Hefner.
Hi, I had 3 main things that I wanted to kind of work on, which is youth opportunities, high quality development, and public safety. I think, with my previous work, on the Opportunities Coalition. I want to make sure that we have constructive things for kids to do in their off time, and that they have at least one adult in their life that they can depend on. I want to make sure that all development meets our design guidelines, and I want to foster development that'll create opportunities for all stages of life and all affordability levels. I support the passing of the multifamily housing stuff, but I think it needs to go a little bit further. I'd like to see longer affordability periods and allowing for more new construction projects. And finally, is public safety. You know, obviously the crime is down, but I want to support anything that they do, and I also would like to see us maybe embed some mental health workers with our police department. Thank you.
Thank you. And Hollis Winston. I don't think your mic is on.
Is it on
There we
now?
go.
So I think there's one issue that a lot of the issues folks have been talking about cascade down from, and that's the physical health of the city. So when I actually asked my wife and 3 children to be able to get involved civically, I got involved with the Budget Advisory Commission, and so when we look at the budget, 55% of our budget is taken up by public safety, which is, primarily police and fire. And it's not because they're running fat, it's not because they're wasting money, it's because we have a fundamental issue in terms of bringing restaurants and retail to this city and other businesses that actually bring in tax revenue and that aren't benefiting from a ton of the tax breaks we see with businesses along 610. We need businesses that will pay their fair share. So for me, it's bringing those businesses in, slowing the rise of property taxes, which have risen over 30% the last 7 years, and that will address many of those other issues because we simply can't afford to address those until we address the budget.
Thank you. Next question. Our city is made up of many races and cultures. What unique qualities would you bring to city government that can bring these diverse groups together? And we'll start with Geoff Lundy.
Thank you. I think a few things that I bring unique to the position is I spent over 10 years doing international business with companies, countries all over this world. I bring that experience of understanding that culture is based on what someone speaks and what someone's experienced. So I don't come in there with the idea that I know everything. I come in there with an open ears, open heart. I think it's important for the mayor to go the distance. Going the distance isn't about mincing words. It's about going out and doing the thing. In 2012, when we talked about going the distance with Liberia, I spent my own money, about $8,000, to go to Liberia because I knew that making that connection with the Liberian community meant going there. I also knew that I couldn't go to the taxpayers and say, let me spend some of your money for me to take a trip. So I removed the taxpayers out of the equation. I know that showing up and listening is the most important quality that one can do if one really wants to respect and honor the different diversities that we have in our city.
Thank you. And we will go to Hollis Winston.
So, I grew up in Plymouth, Minnesota. And there's a point to this, in a white middle-class neighborhood, went to a private school that was extremely diverse. I've worked in corporate America with extremely diverse group of people. Was class president at Carlson. And so I've worked with all different types of groups. And for me, the strand that comes from that is it's not about necessarily going to folks' events, because I'm in an African-American community. People always come to us right before the election. I think it's much more about creating opportunity or moving from a space of understanding that everybody, regardless of what race, where you're born, understands the need to create opportunities and to put policies in place that actually create opportunities. That's been a defining moment in my life in terms of the quality of life I've been able to provide to my wife, 3 children, and to help out with my friends. And so that's the thing that motivates me more. Yes, I'm an ear, I listen to folks, but it's also about providing opportunity and moving from that space.
Thank you. And next, Tonya West, Hefner.
Well, first, I'm one of 8 children in my family, and so I had to learn at a pretty big early age that I had to be part of a team. I've spent my entire career focused on affordable housing and community development. I minister and manage staff that use complex federal programs to help people. I've worked with rental assistants and overseen property managers and properties in general. And I have a strong commitment to public service and volunteer work that I've been on all the different commissions and different task forces and things have really enhanced my skills and helped me build relationships and networks. I was selected as chair for 2 of the different city commissions, and I've gained experience in leadership, collaboration, negotiations, and getting a diverse group of people to come together to make the city better. I think that my strengths are plain-spoken person with empathetic ways, and I believe I can bring all of that to the table and bring people together.
Thank you. Next, Christian Eriksen.
Whether it's race, culture, politics, religion. Whether it's race, culture, politics, religion, or economics, bringing any diverse group of people together follows the same general principles. We listen, we ask questions, we believe the story and the lived experience of the other. We empathize, and we do it over and over and over again. It takes work, and it is not easy. I've spent most of my career working in organizations that place high value on this cross-cultural and interreligious work. And I've been mentored, I have studied, and I have exercised this skill over my career. And I think that events like National Night Out are a good start, but this work takes more practice than an annual or 3 or 4 times a year event. So I would like to see the city foster more and more of those kinds of settings.
Thank you. And next, Winfred, I'll repeat the question. Our city is made up of many races and cultures. What unique qualities would you bring to city government that can bring these diverse groups together?
Thank you, and I'm sorry I came in a little late. I running from another program, so just trying to juggle all these different events and different activities. My name is Winfred Russell, and I'm running for a seat in the Brooklyn Park City Council in the West District. I have a very long track record of working with diverse groups of people. I have a proven record of engaging different community groups, multi-ethnic, multi-generational groups. Most recently, I was in West Africa, where I was working there in northern Nigeria, responding to polio. I worked with a very diverse group of people there. Prior to that, I worked with Ebola, and I've worked throughout this area, the state of Minnesota, working to bring different groups together towards a common goal. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Terry Parks.
The most important thing any city official can do is listen. What I bring to the table is listening skills. I've sat in many meetings with people of all walks of life. They're not asking me to come to these meetings to talk, they're asking me to come to these meetings to listen. I've broken bread with those celebrating Ramadan. I've created an open door policy where people know that they can call me anytime. I've marched for Ebola awareness and issues around affordable housing. I've toured mosques and kneeled and prayed with them, not only to learn more about their culture, but to say I'm here if you need me. This is not my community, it's our community. I bring to the table compassion and understanding. I don't say been there, done that, because I haven't. I say call me and let me know where I can help. And I've always been that way, and I'm not going to change now.
Thank you. And next is Bob Maida.
Thank you. My 35-plus years in real estate, I've been able to work with lots of different groups, lots of different people from ethnic backgrounds, from different economic backgrounds, and you learn to listen. You listen to if you want to be successful, you have to be able to listen to what they're saying and do something about it. Take action. That's been my goal the whole time I've been on the city council. People know that they can call me. I publish my phone number so they can get a hold of me directly. And they know that I will listen to their problem and I will do whatever it takes to take care of their problem. And they know that they can count on me and I'm here for them. They know that I'm always around and I'm always available. So they know that I'm one to be counted on. And I think that's very important that people know that I'm here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And our next question, do you approve of the city's support of the Botno Light Rail project? Why or why not? And we'll start with Winfred Russell.
I wholeheartedly approve of the Botano light rail project. We live in a community that is transit dependent, and many of our folks have to get to work, get to school or entertainment activities. They need to get around, and so transit, I think, provides that opportunity. And having the light rail here, not only is it going to support our transportation needs, but it's also going to create access to healthcare, access to education, to development, and all of that. So I've been working on the Botano Transitway from its inception, engaging different community groups, working with policymakers to ensure that we have this sort of multimodal transportation system, because we need it here in Brooklyn Park. So I support that, and I stand for light rail and transit systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Terry Parks.
Again, I sat here 4 years ago and said I really didn't like light rail because of the route and how much it was going to cost. But now that I've been up here on the council, I've learned a lot. I've warmed up to the fact that because of light rail, businesses want to be here. Businesses are expanding in anticipation of light rail. Target is talking about building Main Street atmosphere in front of their headquarters with bars and restaurants. North Hennepin Community College is partnering on a possible, and the city is partnering on Performing Arts Center because of light rail. Large companies like Olympus moved here with anticipation. And my only question now is, when can we get started on light rail, and when can we get transportation east and west? Because right now, the way light rail is set up, nobody from my side of town can get there. So I'm hoping I do, bottom line, I do approve our city's support of light rail.
Thank you. Next, Tonya West, Hefner.
I also approve the city's support of the Botano LRT. I've been a longtime volunteer on the Botano Community Advisory Committee, and I'm hopefully optimistic that it will get done and open in 2024. I think mass transit is critical to creating equity and providing opportunity for our residents to have access to good transportation systems so they can get where they need to go, work, school, jobs. In addition, I feel that it is and will continue to bring redevelopment and new development to help bring jobs and fill housing gaps and increase our tax base. I also support it because of the community engagement efforts that have been around it. I think they've been particularly good with the LRT. I work with a lot of different cities in suburban Hennepin County, and nobody does community engagement the way that we do. So I'm very happy about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Bob Maida.
Thank you. It's no secret that when they first came out with the Botano proposal, I was dead set against it. They were going to take out 100 families and dislocate and just move them out. Just associate people from their homes, and I was just dead set against their plan at that particular time. Also, the fact that they were going to come across 73rd at an angle, come across 81 at grade level at the street, and I said, you're not going to stop traffic 4 directions every 7 minutes. I said, do you imagine what a nightmare you're going to create, during rush hour? Well, they came back about a month later and said that, well, they decided it was going to be more advantageous for their workers to put a bridge over 81. I'm now on the steering committee for the light rail. I've been on there for several years now, and I want to see it happen if they get the funding for it. Our biggest problem is that it's going to cost us a lot of money, but we need to get West Broadway fixed in the meantime. So thank you very much.
Next, Hollis Winston.
So I think a lot of folks have said kind of a lot of what I agree with in terms of the light rail. So in terms of bringing jobs and getting folks out to jobs, I think one of my big concerns is we do need that east to west access so that people can get back and forth. I think that's going to be extremely important. And the caveat for me is I want to make sure that our local businesses get their fair share of opportunities. So we have seen some of the tentative plans, and it's not necessarily a ton of space carved out for local businesses. So I think we need to fight and fight extremely hard for those local businesses to get the opportunities, especially, again, when we want to push back against the rise of property taxes. But I also think that when we deal with some of those issues, we need to work a lot closer with our local legislative officials. So when we talk about Senator Hoffman, who helped get some of the funding to make that happen, or Melissa Hortman, you know, we have opportunities to work with them to make sure some of these issues are taken care of better than they're being taken care of now.
Thank you. And Geoff Lundy.
Thank you. So obviously I do support light rail, but it's not just about supporting, it's about leading. It's about going down to the Capitol, it's about going to DC and telling a story to convince Democrats and Republicans, both of them, because they're both the solution to this light rail funding, about why this is important. It's about talking about why businesses decide to locate. It's about global competitiveness. People who are going to put a business here from another country want a transportation system that looks like what they have where they're from. It's about providing people with access to transportation. If you can't hold a job, if you can't get to the job. And access to reliable transportation is one of the biggest barriers for people who are trying to struggle to get out of poverty, to get to a better career. I was a founding mayor of the Blue Line Connect Now Coalition. I actually have traveled 3 times with the Met Council as part of the Metro team to lobby for this at the federal level. I also was the only mayor who testified in front of the FTA administrator in favor of this. I know this issue, I know it in and out, I know all the plans. If we're going to talk about moving this project forward, I believe I'm the best bet.
Thank you. And Christian Eriksen.
I'm also going to answer with a yes. I lived in Chicago for a number of years, and I loved using mass transit. I felt like it was a really effective way to spend my time. I currently work for an organization that is relocating to St. Paul because of the Green Line. And so I would echo the importance of the draw to businesses, tourists, hotels, restaurants in moving this through. I realize that there's a lot of people who disagree, but it feels inevitable at this point. And so I would encourage folks to work together on making the inevitable successful. There are definitely some landmines. The Green Line, the route of the Green Line, property values increased 80% in the first year. And that has a lot of consequences in terms of property value, property taxes, affordability, rent-wise. And those need to be addressed, and we should work through options for current residents who might be impacted by that.
Thank you. And our next question. Local businesses are taxpayers, but often not voting residents. In what way will you reach out to best understand their needs and provide for fair representation in City Council decision-making? Please share your thoughts. And we will start with Bob Maida.
Thank you. As a matter of fact, it was just last month that a business owner contacted me because of problems that he was having with the city. And after a number of conversations, maybe spending 2 or 3 hours on the phone, going out and visiting his place of business and finding out, you know, what the real problem was, and then talking it over with the proper people here in the city, we were able to come up with a solution for him to make things better. And that's just part of what I do. I'm available for people that have needs and things that they need to have done, especially for businesses. I've been very pro-business in my voting record. And that I think that, you know, loosening up on some of the restrictions that we've had on businesses, making it easier for a business to move here without so much high cost, that I think that that's really what we need to do is take care of them that way. So thank you.
Thank you. And next, Winfred Russell.
We here in the city have spent a lot of tax dollar on trying to lure big businesses. My approach, I think, and especially representing the West District, where we have a large concentration of businesses, big and small, my approach would be to try to provide some incentives too for these small businesses. You know, small businesses, as we know, provide a lot of jobs, provide a lot of opportunities. I've been around in the West District knocking on doors of all of the small businesses and trying to find out what their needs are. And they're hurting. They don't have the incentives. They don't have the incentives that Target and CarMax and all of these big businesses get. So it's about time. It's not only about going and talking to them, but it's just trying to ensure that we have policies in place that will grow small businesses, because small businesses are the engine of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Geoff Lundy.
Thank you. I think a few things that come to mind. One, when I first got elected as mayor, one of the first programs I helped initiate was called Business Forward, which was an idea that we had a group of business owners that came and basically held court over our policies. We would run policies, proposals to them. We would ask their opinions on things. The makeup of the Business Forward Council was really as diverse as we could make it, small, large businesses, local businesses, national businesses, to really get their opinion on what we're looking at doing. That initial Business Forward came back with a plan that they said, here's what we want the city to do. And what the city did was we passed the plan. We didn't say, well, we're going to quibble over little things and we're going to go back and forth. I think by doing those kind of things, you provide that kind of respect. I also think the other thing is businesses have a list of things they don't want us to do. All too often people think that we are helping them when actually we pass ordinances that actually hinder businesses. So making sure you understand the clear delineation between what helps and what hinders is very important. Sometimes it's best not to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Hollis Winston.
It's Mike. But this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. I know a lot of personal friends and folks on my campaign team and myself, we actually own small businesses. And there's actually a personal example. So there's a business, Gramsci's, off of 85th, and they went out of business, and they were asking for the city to relax some regulations so they could put up some signage so people could actually see where that restaurant was. And they didn't really get the response or the assistance that they wanted. And we've seen that with a number of businesses. We need to relax regulations, but also businesses will begin to move to Brooklyn Park, and especially local small businesses, because when you've given so much corporate welfare to other businesses, you've created this issue with property taxes rising. You need to focus on local businesses that will pay their fair share of taxes, and they will come, but they will come if they see real results. So I'm proposing a commission that looks at state and federal tax dollars, not tax dollars, but grant dollars, so that we can invest in opportunities for them to actually grow the local businesses that we need right here in Brooklyn Park.
Thank you. And next, Terry Parks.
Again, for me, it's a listening situation. We have the best staff in the world, I believe, here in Brooklyn Park. They work well with businesses and have no issues telling council the facts and codes and stuff relating to businesses. I have never not answered a question that they've asked me. If I didn't know the answer, I went and looked for it. We do have a business advisory committee comprised of council people, business owners, and staff. And the issues that they come up with, they talk amongst themselves and work it out, and I think that's a great part of what we do. I have a voice in what businesses come into town. I have a voice as to who's going to be on our planning commission. Our planning commissioners right now, I think, are probably the smartest group of people that we have here. They ask tough questions, and I rely a lot on what they have to say. So I think we've been more and more business friendly the last few years, and I would like to continue to work with them.
Thank you. Next, Christian Eriksen.
Businesses are among many types of individuals and organizations who experience the consequences of city council actions but are not voters. Businesses, commuters, churches, non-citizen immigrants, some city employees, and refugees all bring enormous benefits and resources to our community but have no direct say at the ballot box. I'm committed to engaging anyone, anywhere, to being available and being a willing listener to business leaders, cultural community leaders, clergy, and others. These communities should be listened to, their concerns heard, their needs considered and balanced fairly against all the other needs of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tonya West, Hefner.
This is an area that I have to be honest and say that I'm not that strong in. My dad was a business owner, but I'm not familiar with what the city can do or is doing to support businesses. I know the city has a Business Forward initiative, and I know that the council attends chamber events. So I'm very open to learning, and I would, if I'm elected, be requesting to serve as the liaison to the Business Forward Initiative. I feel it would give me a good chance to get to know the business owners and to better understand their perspectives, their needs, so I can do a better, well-rounded job of making good decisions.
Thank you. And now we will be switching to the 30-second question round. We finished the first 5 questions, and we will be going to questions from the audience. So the first question from the audience is, have you ever been endorsed by a political party? If so, which party? And then there's a second part to that question. Do you see party endorsements for a nonpartisan office as important to voters? And we'll start with Bob Maida.
I'm very passionate about this in that this is a nonpartisan election. I have refused support from both parties, that I don't think it's fair that we have a political party that are being involved in our city elections. It's supposed to be nonpartisan, and I don't receive any money and have refused money from any other group. So I just think that this is very important for us to be nonpartisan and just go out there and just be ourselves and not have anybody else to have to answer to. Thank you, except the residents.
Thank you. Winfred Russell.
Thank you. I have received support and endorsement from the Democratic Party. I have received support and endorsement from the Fire Union and from the Labor Union, and I'm very proud of those support and engagement. They are not influencing my decision and will not influence my decision, but I think it shows the value of what I bring to the City Council, being able to work with all of these groups and gaining support from all of these groups. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Christian Eriksen.
I did accept the DFL endorsement for a city council seat. I don't think that by not taking an endorsement that our core values go away. I mean, I think liberal folks will continue to think liberally, conservative folks will continue to think conservatively. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I view endorsement as a type of transparency about my core values, but I have not given away any of my sovereignty to a political party.
Thank you. And Tonya West, Hefner.
I have not been endorsed by any political parties. I felt, this is the first time I've ever run, so I really felt like it was something, since it was a nonpartisan race, that I shouldn't be doing that. But I respect others for their choices and the things that they decide to do, but I chose not to do that.
Thank you. And Geoff Lundy.
I have been endorsed by the Republican Party in the past. I currently consider myself politically independent. And the reason is, I am sick to death of both political parties. I watch what they do to our country in DC. I watch what they do to our country, our state in Minnesota, and they do nothing but tear us apart. You can see it on Facebook. You can see it how people treat each other. You can see it everywhere. I will never seek endorsement from a political party again.
Thank you. Hollis Winston.
We'll start that over. I don't know if the passion's there anymore, but I bring the same level of passion to being endorsed by the Democratic Party and also receiving the labor endorsement. And here's why. I align with many of those values. I see it as a freedom of speech thing. So I don't have any issue with people saying what they represent, being endorsed by folks who align with them. But I also would tell people, I would challenge people, look behind the curtain and see who's actually funding what for all of us behind here.
Thank you. And Terry Parks.
I have never sought or nor have I gotten an endorsement from a political party. It is a nonpartisan position. To me, it's not an issue. I think people will look through what party you're on. I think they'll look at your character and what you've done for the city or what you've done for the public in general. So I don't see it's an issue, but I've never received or asked for it.
Thank you. Next question. Brooklyn Park has significant traffic congestion, especially on 252, Highway 252. What do you propose the city should do to address this issue? And we'll start with Tonya West, Hafner.
I was, interestingly enough, involved in CLIC. When I was first on CLIC, our city engineer was Gary Brown, and one of the things that he was working on was trying to get 252 fixed. I think we have to, just like we did for 610, and just like we're doing for the light rail, we have to go fight to get that hammered out and get it done. I know that the state and the county and the cities are working on it, but I think it's something that we have to go fight for. Because I drive 252 every single day, and it's a nightmare. So.
And Bob Maida.
Thank you. We've already had discussions and some meetings going on trying to see what we can do about changing 252 into a more of a freeway type of a road. We had discussions with Brooklyn Center and with the state and the county, but it is a state and county road, and we can't put our dollars. We don't have a lot of say in what goes on there. We can influence as much as possible, but it's the state and the county that make the end decisions on what they're going to do with the road.
Winfred Russell.
I don't live on that side of town, but I've driven there quite often, and I see the traffic congestion. It's a nightmare, and I would like to see us move into a highway system, a trunk highway system, where we can have a much more smooth movement of vehicles and there. I know it's not a city road, but we can use our leveraging power to negotiate to get some dollars to fix 252.
Thank you. Terry Parks.
I sit on a committee with Councilmember Jacobson, the county and the state. We've been having meetings almost on a monthly basis. We've had neighborhood meetings where we gave them 6 plans that we wanted to do with 252, and we got it down to 1. The plans are moving forward. I live on 73rd and 252, so I see the congestions over there, but I think it's a done deal. We've got the funding now, so we're ready to go. It won't be long before it's going to be a freeway and not a highway.
Thank you. Christian Eriksen.
I also drive 252 every day. I've seen a number of accidents, and I've been a part of a few near misses myself. I think I literally cheered when I saw that there was consideration of turning that into a limited access freeway. So I am glad to hear Terry's news and believe that it's a done deal. So I do fully support that transition to limited access. And I've noticed some other bottlenecks, but again, they're all federal or state funded roads. So.
Thank you. Hollis Winston.
You know, I've heard also that that's going to be turned into a limited access freeway, and so I'm excited about that. I think just like the Botano Light Rail, we need to make sure we have leadership that is working with our state legislatures to make sure that that is pushed through. So I know with the Botano Light Rail, that's kind of been delayed. I don't want to necessarily see the freeway delayed, so whatever we can do to lobby and push that, and I think that comes with strong leadership to make that happen, we need to double down on that to make sure that that happens.
Thank you. And Geoff Lundy.
Thank you. So the last weekend of bonding, I spent the entire weekend lobbying. We do have the money to pay for 252. The plan is going to move forward. I sat and talked to Republicans and Democrats. I talked to the governor's office after the bills were passed to make sure that if there was any kind of a veto threat or line item vetoes, that project money was protected. So I was down there doing the work to make sure that we got the money. The other part is to make sure that our access from our East District Fire Station has clear access to the east side of 252 so that if there's a fire call, they can get to it.
Thank you. Our next question This person asks, being the 5th largest city in Minnesota, how will you work with the county and state regarding the increasing opioid problem? And we will start with Hollis Winston.
So I think it's the same approach. I know that I've talked to actually quite a number of our local state legislators, and they said they would like to work a lot closer with our city council and mayor. And so I think for that, that's going to take coordination, working hand in hand with the legislator and working hand in hand with our counties to make sure that we have the funding to do that. It's not something I'm a subject matter expert on yet, but I do know that we have not leveraged our state legislators the way we should.
Thank you. And Tonya West Hafner.
I know that we need to have a coordinated effort when it comes to that specific thing, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. I'm not sure, having not been served on the council, I'm not sure what we can specifically do, but whatever it is that we can do, we should be doing. My proposals for potentially getting mental health people out there with them, with the police department, we should be also including anything that we can do to help with this issue.
Thank you. Bob Maida.
And could you read the question again, Linda?
Yes. Being the 5th largest city, are we the 5th or the 6th? I thought we were the 6th, but I'm reading it verbatim here. So we'll say, being the 6th largest city in Minnesota, how will you work with the county and state regarding the increasing opioid problem?
We actually have a opioid clinic that is going to be opening up here in Brooklyn Park. Their first proposal when they came into the city and came before the council, they were going to put it into a neighborhood, which I objected to, along with the rest of the council. We've since found another spot for them that's very good for them, and so we actually have a process now going where we have an opioid clinic that's going to be coming in here to help with this problem right now.
Thank you. Terry Parks?
I'm not an expert in this subject, but I know that it's getting to be bigger and bigger. We do need to make sure we do have the right people in the office, state office, that we can work with. We at the city level can leverage them through letters and phone calls. I think that we need to be more educated on how this is going to work and what we can do. We do have that clinic moving in, and we just have to be educated on how it's going to work.
Thank you. Christian Eriksen?
I'm also not a drug policy expert, but I was at a meeting with Chief Envoldson a few weeks back where he shared that they had already had 2 overdose calls that day. So it is definitely a clear and present danger to Brooklyn Park. But I think it's going to be an all-hands-on-deck approach. Schools, religious institutions, county, state, federal, law enforcement, everybody's going to have a part in educating the public and responding to the crisis.
Thank you. Geoff Lundy?
Thank you. I think first and foremost, our efforts should be concentrated with the county. They're the primary agent that works on opioid, the sheriff's department. But I think it's really part of a larger thing, which is we need to make sure that we are destigmatizing the fact that people who suffer drug abuse, drug addictions, not just opioid, but all types, need to get treatment. That's the most cost-effective way to help do this, is to head it off by getting people help before it becomes a life-threatening problem. So I believe it's part of a greater effort. It's not just about opioid. There's other drugs that are affecting our community.
Thank you. And Winfred Russell?
Thank you. Well, I agree. We definitely need to coordinate with the county and Minnesota Department of Health as well to address this issue. But like we did during the Ebola crisis, we worked with a lot of these institutions, brought a lot of the expertise to the table to see how best we can destigmatize the issue and support folks. But when you look at a city like Brooklyn Park, you said the 6th largest in the state, we don't have a full-fledged health department. I mean, like Bloomington and other big cities. So we need to look at that too as well to help to coordinate these efforts.
Okay. Our next question. How will you lead the council in addressing the increased homeless issue in Brooklyn Park? And we'll start with Terry Parks.
I've mentioned it a few times already tonight that we need to start working on affordable housing. We need to start working with the people that actually are pros in that. We've had a few, Nalima and some others that have come forward that we have to actually start listening to and start moving forward on getting that done. Affordable housing is huge. We do have the homeless youth shelter, but we need to do a little more work, well, a lot more work.
Thank you. And next, Tonya West, Hefner.
I think the council, as I mentioned earlier, potentially as a council person, we could be including some more opportunities for new construction in the policy that was passed and longer affordability periods. I think we need to continue to allow for new buildings and more units to be built in order to help deal with some of the crisis.
Thank you. And Christian Eriksen.
I was impressed a few years back when one city staff person observed a problem and brought it forward, and the whole community responded to build that youth shelter. I think it shows that our community cares and is ready to step in and do some work on the issue. So I don't think it's hopeless, but I think it will take a lot of coordination and a lot of effort. And I am definitely not a housing policy expert, but I am definitely open to learning and being a part of solving that problem.
Thank you. Winfred Russell.
There's no question we have an affordable housing crisis in Brooklyn Park. And so one of the things we need to do is to address that, provide opportunity to have more affordable housing stock in the city. There's no question about that. But we also need to look at the wages that people are getting in the city. We need to address the issue of livable wages, because just providing these housing or addressing the housing issue and people cannot afford to live in these complexes and pay the mortgage is not going to work.
Thank you. And Hollis Winston.
So I've door knocked thousands of doors. Our team has done that, and one of the biggest things we've heard is people's fear of affordable housing. So I think property taxes have had a big impact on that, and then affecting rental units as well. People simply just can't afford it. So I think, we do need more shelter, more homes, more affordable housing along that arena. But also we need to take a long-term fix and look at what type of businesses are we bringing here, what types of jobs are we bringing here, so that people are able to afford local housing.
Thank you. Bob Maida.
Thank you. I was also involved and helped along with the youth shelter when that was built. I was there and with that thing. And the city also owns a fourplex for transitional housing for some people. The people come in, they can stay for 1 to maybe 2 years and then have to move on. But our housing would be more affordable if our taxes weren't so high. And that seemed to be our big problem. I've had the privilege of voting no for the budget for the last 6 years because of an increase of almost $2 million per year. And I voted against it, so thank you.
And Geoff Lundy.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. How will you lead the council in addressing the increasing homeless issue in Brooklyn Park?
Okay. And so I'm just going to talk about the homeless aspects. I was there at Ground Zero and we really got the community to help pool together, talk about homelessness especially with youth, as something that we could positively affect, and was a proud member of the council as we voted to help get that money there. And I'm still serving on the advisory board. I think what we did that was so successful is talk about the root cause of homelessness, whether it was transitional house, whether it was women who are fleeing abuse, making sure they have a place to go to. There's a reason people are homeless, and we need to make sure that we tackle those each specific way that we can.
Thank you. Our next question, with our changing demographics, how will you work to ensure we have multicultural representation in all city departments? And we'll start with Christian Eriksen.
That's a hard question to come up with an answer for on the fly, so I'm going to share one particular story. My brother-in-law is a firefighter in Springfield, Illinois, and they've had considerable success in this area. They developed a presentation teaching young African Americans about the history of African Americans in the fire service. And that was incredibly successful. And so we need to explore what other communities are doing that has been successful, that's worked, and feel free to steal them.
Thank you. And Hollis Winston.
So I don't know if I should just steal Eriksen's answer, but I do have some personal experience with this in terms of creating a youth mentor program, and so we've taken a number of youth, and over the years they've grown to where they've actually been able to get positions, whether it's interning for folks in city council or just working for other political candidates. So I think it's really at a young age creating that pipeline, but I do think you have to go out of your way and look in the areas that maybe you haven't looked before for talent that you haven't necessarily seen, and kind of open up what it is you want to bring into those jobs.
Thank you. Geoff, Lundy.
I think one of the challenges is just the economy is so good right now, it is hard to hire anybody. And so I think we really need to put our focus on making sure that we're offering good policies that make people feel like they want to work here. I think another aspect is hire senior level people of diverse backgrounds. If you want to diversify a department, make the director of that department diverse. They're going to have those connections, the people, the weight to help bring in new employees that have that, and we've been trying to do that. I do think that getting out young and probably portraying that working for the government isn't that bad, and that we'd love to have you.
Thank you. Hefner.
I think that's, people have sort of already said most of the things that I would say, but I think one of the biggest things that I've seen in my own personal work experience, because we have not typically historically had a lot of people of color or different backgrounds working in the housing field, and the more that you can mentor people and the more you can get people in and show them who it is that can be doing this work, the better off you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Winfred Russell.
Thank you. We need to reach out to the various communities that we have in Brooklyn Park. I mean, there's no excuse. We have a very diverse city, and we need to work with different groups and different communities from an asset point of view as opposed to a deficit. But it's not only the city department, but also the city council needs to reflect the diversity that exists in the city. So we need to change that, and we're going to change that at this election time.
Thank you. Bob Mina.
Hard to follow that one. But I am diverse as well. I'm Italian and hillbilly. Most of our departments within the city are doing a lot of diversity in there. Have a lot of diversity in there, except for the fire department, it just seems like. But we need to get out into the high schools and the community colleges that we have here and do our recruitments there and education there to get people to come and work with the city, no matter which department it is.
Thank you. And let's see, Terry Parks.
I would just like to say ditto, but I still got 30 seconds to go. So one of the things that I think we're getting better at is having intern jobs. We have some business forward people that are out doing interns and getting them trained a little better. I think the recruitment that the police department is doing, they're doing real well, but we need to get into North Hennepin Community College and North Hennepin Tech and start letting them know what we've got going. So,
Thank you. And our next question, what will you do to try and attract more quality restaurants to Brooklyn Park? And we will start with Winfred Russell.
Well, again, that goes back to what I will be pushing for and what I've said earlier. We need to support our small businesses. Many of the restaurants, many of the great restaurants you see, they are run and they're owned by mom and pop type operation. We need to support those businesses and support them with dollars and not just give a lot of our money to big corporations and big companies. So one of the things that I think we need to do to attract these businesses here is to support them.
Thank you. Bob Maida.
Thank you. I don't know if everybody, a lot of people just don't know that we have over 80 restaurants in our city now. But in order to attract the big chains to get some larger restaurants to come in, they say that they need more rooftops. They need more rooftops. They need more jobs so they can handle the daytime. They need to get the daytime business, so they have to have more businesses here just to be able to feed those restaurants during the lunch hour and not just the dinner hour. So.
Thank you. Tonya West, Hefner.
I think after having been on Planning Commission, we heard this question a lot and realized that there really isn't, it's really up to those restaurants to decide to come here, and having more development and supporting the LRT, supporting the development, supporting those kinds of things is going to bring more of those rooftops that Bob was talking about. I think that potentially would bring some of those bigger chains in here. But I think unless the market is different, it's really market driven, so it's hard for us to really have any bigger impact on it than just to have that support. Thank you.
Thank you. And Terry Parks.
That is a tough question because it's something that we've talked about for years and years and years about bringing restaurants in. We were getting to a point where we had these idea of what restaurants we wanted to bring in, and the next week we started talking about a swimming pool. So we need to stay on track. I think light rail will bring that in. I think we've got 2 hotels being built right now, and if we bring in the other 2 that are talking about coming in, I think that's going to drive restaurants as well.
Thank you. Christian Eriksen.
If there's one thing we know about businesses, it's that they universally like to make money. And if we can demonstrate that the restaurants we have now are successful, I think that others will want to join in the party. And we need to convince our friends and neighbors to stop driving to Maple Grove and Coon Rapids to eat and explore the places that are right around the corner from their homes.
Thank you. Hollis Winston.
So, I think we have to take a different approach than what we've seen in Maple Grove and some other places. We can't just invite big box restaurants here for the simple fact that they do want more rooftops. They want a certain median income for a certain square mile radius. But, we do have the opportunity to do kind of what St. Paul has done, and they do have a commission where they look at state grants, federal grants, and they support local businesses that they think have promise. And with all the diversity that we have, meaning, newer immigrants, but also folks who have been here 50, 60 years, I think we can come up with something different that the rest of Minnesota hasn't seen.
Thank you. Geoff Lundy.
Yeah, a question that I think people hear, and then I always ask them, have you been here, here, and here? And I find out people haven't heard of those restaurants. So I think a way to help local restaurants have wayfinding. I think one program that we do have going is there's something called a SAC-WAC charge. It's sewer access and water access charge. That tends to hit small businesses who don't see it coming hardest. City of Brooklyn Park has taken some SAC-WAC credits and started to pool them, and we are using them as grants so that if a company or a restaurant, small ones specifically, come here and want to open up a business, we actually can relieve them of $20,000 to $50,000 of debt that they didn't expect.
Thank you. And our next question. Big companies move here to increase our tax base, but we are not seeing any relief. Why are we not seeing a property tax reduction? And number 1 person here, Terry Parks.
And I won't be using my entire 30 seconds because I have no idea. I don't have an answer.
Okay. Bob Mina.
The only thing I do know is that I voted against the almost $2 million increase each year on the budget to try and lower taxes, and I've constantly fought with our city manager and things, not fought, but we've had a number of discussions on how we can reduce the tax base on our residents. The state has changed their program from going more business and less residential to being now more residential and less business. And I don't know how we can handle that, so.
Thank you. Winfred Russell.
I think one of the things we have to look at and try to address to see the money that we give out in terms of tax abatement and all of that to big companies and how that affects, our tax base. I mean, obviously, that's not helping us a lot. So we need to reevaluate that and look at what we're doing in our department.
Thank you. Tonya West, Hefner.
I'm sure all of you are aware of how the taxes are made up with the schools, the county, the different HRA levies, that kind of thing. But my personal take on it is that, our market is very hot here in Minnesota for single-family properties and also rental properties. And so we've seen a lot of investors coming in and buying rental properties, and that's driving up those costs and those values. And then just try to sell your house, and you're going to probably have it sold before you get it on the market for way more than you thought. And all of those things tie into the tax value.
Thank you. Geoff Lundy?
Yeah, it is a tough one, especially in 30 seconds to talk about. I think what's important is to remember, even if we froze the city budget this year, we spent no more, there's absolutely no way to guarantee anybody in this room your taxes are going to go down. We could cut the city budget by $1 million. Again, no way to verify that you would receive a tax, because if your house increases the value at higher than the rate, the average, you are going to pay more taxes. There's almost no way to guarantee people can see a tax break. What we need to do is continue to focus on bringing high value development in here and keep bending that curve.
Thank you. Hollis Winston?
So I think it's a citywide leadership issue when you have the type of corporate welfare we see off of 610. Those businesses, a lot of those businesses come here and they receive tax breaks, and it's kind of unspoken, but we are paying for those tax breaks. So while the value of houses does go up, it does improve, we've seen our property taxes rise pretty much faster than most of the metro area, and that's because we have some real budget issues. When you have public safety taking up 55% of the budget, that's not because they're overspending. You just have some structural issues that you have to fix.
Thank you. And Christian Eriksen?
Nobody likes paying more taxes. Mine have gone up by about a third since I bought my house in 2013. Luckily, my home value has also increased by about a third. So I think the reality of the housing market is that our taxes are going to go up as long as the market is this hot. And thankfully, many of those tax breaks are time limited. So over time, we should see some of that money coming back into the city coffers.
Thank you. And we're going with our last audience question before we go to the final question. What policies will you put forth to strengthen families in Brooklyn Park? And we'll start with Tonya West, Hafner.
I think, having a housing background, I think one of the very first things we could do is create more stable, affordable housing and preserve what we have. I think we could potentially go with the county and some other areas that are putting aside funds to help preserve affordable housing. I can't even imagine the crisis that's going to happen if Dominium ends up selling that 900 units and what that kind of chaos that's going to create.
Thank you. And Geoff Lundy.
I think first and foremost is we need to acknowledge that families are not the families of old. Families now can have multi-generational. I have my son's best friend lives with a grandma. The parents are nowhere to be seen. Some people have single parents, some people have multiple ways. I think we need to make sure that we're not making policies, programming for youth, things like that, that really is meant for the families of old where you had two parents, one staying at home, who could get kids back and forth. We need to make sure that our policies reflect the idea that families is not a single definition, that it can be multiple definitions, and that we reflect that.
Thank you. Winfred Russell.
Thank you. What I think is that we need to put forth policies that will help with the affordable housing stock that we have here, the inability of having sufficient affordable housing stock. We need to develop our parks and trails to get folks out and active. We need to design more youth engagement type programs. Back in a couple of years ago, we had the A team.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hollis Winston?
So, I think for me, it kind of hits the basics. Again, affordable housing, we do need to build that out when people are concerned about housing. That doesn't make for a family that feels comfortable. But also pushing down those property taxes. Not to belabor that, I would say jobs as well. So whether it's, having these corporations work with North Hennepin, Hennepin Tech to create training programs for youth in the future so they can provide for their families, or bringing new businesses here so people can work here, I think those basics allow people to invest in themselves and strengthen their families.
Thank you. Bob Mina?
Thank you. I think that being more business-friendly and bringing more businesses into our city that will give jobs to the people that live here, that the housing issue will take care of itself. I believe the study was done that we have more than our fair share of affordable housing. We just need to make sure that stock remains in good condition and get grants that take care of that.
Thank you. Christian Eriksen?
A couple years ago, my kids' spring break did not line up with my spring break, and the Zanewood Community Center was there to help us out. I have the comfort of knowing that there's several retired neighbors who live close to us, so my kids have someone to go to if there's an emergency when they get home from school. There are hundreds and hundreds of options. Some of them are provided by the city, some are provided by getting to know your neighbors. Some are provided by schools, churches, other organizations, and we need to help our neighbors know what's available.
Thank you. And Terry Parks?
Again, and you've heard it up there a few times, but affordable housing is, we've had people that say that we've got too much of it. I don't think you can have enough affordable housing. I think we need to continue to invest in our youth. That'll help keep crime down. And one thing that we need more of here in Brooklyn Park, sixth largest city, is we don't have a lot of social services, and I think we need more social services awareness and programs.
Thank you. And now we will go to the closing question. In summary, how do you intend to best serve this city and move it forward? And we'll start with Bob Maida.
I have a voting record for the last 6 years that says how I support my district and how I take care of the residents that live in my district and the businesses. I'm there. I'm at a lot of the different meetings and the activities that are going on within the city. I show up and I listen, and then I take action. I do things for the residents that what they ask to do. They have a problem with their street being done. They call me. I take care of it. I handle whatever the necessary to get done, and that's the way I take care of things. I just do it. I'm here, and I don't hide from anybody, and I will always answer a phone call.
Thank you. And Winfred Russell.
Can you please repeat the question?
So in summary, how do you intend to best serve the city and move it forward? And this question, you have 1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute. Okay, great. Thanks. So I come with a long track record of working in the city, working in a number of commissions, working on a number of commissions here, as well as the Hennepin County Library Board too as well. So I bring that energy, I bring that experience working with diverse groups. But one of the things I'm going to be focusing on, again, is affordable housing, is working to support our fire department, to ensure that our fire department is staffed up to national level, to respect the code of conduct, to ensure that our code of conduct is adhered to across the board. Also, the parks and trails. We need to create trails throughout the system to create that connectivity so our people can, and our community and families can get out and be active in all of that, and keep crime low. So the way we try to keep crime low is to support the fire department and the police department.
Thank you. Terry Parks.
We have a job growth rate of 1.5 to 2% per year since 2014. Through policies we've implemented, we've created 4,000 new jobs since 2012. We have new businesses like Olympus, Worth Adam, and Hy-Vee, just to mention a few. Our crime is at a 32-year low because we have invested in the right areas, such as our youth and our police department. I have served this city for 37 years through thousands of hours of volunteer time and have served with honor in this city council for 4 years. I've served as a firefighter in this city and in Minneapolis. I have served my country with the U.S. Navy Seabees. I was put on earth to serve God and his people, and I've done that my entire adult life. This city is moving forward, and I think I've been a big part of that already. I will continue to do so. However, this is not a one-person job. This takes teamwork, and I'm proud of what Brooklyn Park has accomplished so far, and I'm excited for the future.
Thank you. Christian Eriksen.
I intend to listen for understanding, to ask questions and consider perspectives before deciding. I will never discount the opinion or experience of another person simply because it does not line up with mine. I will not act on an issue until I have understood it, and if you think I have not understood it, I trust you to reach out to me. This is my home. It's home for all of us. We are all trying to work and raise kids and live our best lives, and that will take cooperation and honesty, transparency, generosity, and compromise from all 80,000 of us. No one on the council is an expert in more than one or two things. Anything the council does, we get to do because voters entrust us to ask questions, research issues, and make the best decisions we can. If elected, I promise not to take that trust lightly.
Thank you. Hollis Winston.
So, it's not just the issue of just property taxes or affordable housing. I think we do have a big fiscal issue within our budget. And so that affects, public safety. We know that our fire department isn't fully funded. We know that the police department has expressed to the Budget Advisory Commission they will cut back on the number of cadets that they're going to hire. And we also saw property taxes rise during the recession, which cuts against the rise in value being the reason, of houses being the reason. But all of that isn't as important as having a vision of creating opportunity for everybody. So for me, it's really about how do we bring businesses here so people can have jobs? If people are going to get corporate tax breaks, how are we going to make sure that it's not just 4,000 jobs, but they're also looking to hire folks in Brooklyn Park first? But also, how are we working with union apprenticeships and those type of companies to bring that to North Hennepin and Hennepin Tech so that next generation has opportunities for jobs? So it's about a greater vision. Affordable housing is part of that because we want people to be able to invest in their families as well.
Geoff Lundy.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Chamber and Ms. Freeman as a moderator and the League of Women Voters for hosting this. I think it's really important to say thank you. For me, nothing's changed in 4 years. It has always been about results. It's all I care about. It's all I work for. It's all I want to deliver. We do have the lowest crime in 32 years, despite having 25,000 more people. Our firefighters arrive 3 times as fast, and they're all EMTs now. We have more jobs than we've ever had. We have more restaurants than we ever had, and we are not done. This week, we have a company that's proposing for 2,000 more jobs, and we're still not done. The future is bright in Brooklyn Park because we focus on what is in front of us. And as mayor, I've done nothing more than focus on those issues. If there's something in the community that I see that is creating angst, if people were targeting people, like when we have people targeting Muslim people, I was the first one there to call a meeting because wherever there is pain in the city, I've been trying to do my absolute best to make sure that we focus our efforts on pulling people together because guess what? We all succeed together.
Thank you. And Tonya West Hafner.
As a 20-year resident of Brooklyn Park, I've been very involved, and I really want to bring all of that expertise and experience to the council, and then also learn new things. My philosophy is to consider issues thoughtfully, listen to other points of view, and decide responsibly, then focus on the long-term best interests of Brooklyn Park and its residents. My decision-making, I think, is common sense, nonpartisan, and moderate. And with 25 years of community development and government experience, and I feel like I'm a strategic leader, I believe I can find solutions to work together, get things done, and to continue to build on our successes to work toward the future. And I particularly want to work on areas of youth, high-quality development, and public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our questions for this evening. Once again, on behalf of the League of Women Voters in the North Hennepin Area Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate in tonight's forum. I would also like to thank the voters for attending and participating by submitting excellent questions, and I would like to thank the viewing audience as well. Remember that if we could not get to your question tonight, or if you have any further questions for the candidates, we invite you to contact them directly with your concerns. Please remember to get out and vote on November 6th, as your vote truly does count. Thank you and have a great evening.